Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Wall. And over on the other side there is Pascal Floor, the ice cream man.
Yep. That's me.
I'm now, all I can think about now, because I've seen your mustache and I'm thinking ice cream vans, and now I'm thinking, I don't know why, but perverts.
Pedophile. Yeah. The funny thing is, when I'm wearing my glasses, I actually said that to Katie. I look like Ned Flanders.
Perfect.
With the beard and the glasses, then, yeah.
I like the glasses look is good.
But I'm not Christian, though.
No, but Ned Flanders, there was an episode where he got, Ned Flanders is jacked, right?
Yeah, he's freaking jacked.
Man,
but also that's not me, so yeah, unfortunately.
Come on. He hasn't got a load of tattoos.
That's true.
You know what?
Very, very Christian. Christian.
He is very Christian. I used to love The Simpsons as a child, and I haven't watched it 10, 15 years.
Same. And I was watching it daily back in the days. But
now
there were so many things that I was watching daily, and now I'm not watching any kind of television anymore.
Netflix?
No, I don't own a Netflix account.
What do you guys? Do you guys watch TV?
No.
And what do you do in the evenings? Just talk, like
we love each other, and I mean not loving in the way of like getting physical, but more so like we talk. We are adults now. We have 2 kids at home. Most of the time when the kids are at bed, it's just like, okay, half an hour to an hour, and then we are also off to bed. So so for everyone out there who has no kids at home, this is what your life will look like once you have kids. So, and once again, if we actually have a little bit more time available, then now with the new house, we are maybe sitting outside or just like, sitting down, each one on their mobile devices. So basically you transition from watching television over to just like sitting in front of your mobile device.
I'm trying to get better at actually watching the TV without my phone in my hand as well.
Yeah, I have it. So whenever I'm going to bed, I have my tablet. I'm watching something like some kind of news or so in the background, and then I'm sitting on my mobile device. This is what reality looks like. Yeah.
I recently chatted to Jackson Pios. That podcast will be coming out sometime in the future. Really good chat. But he's so into his anime, it's actually made me like I thought I liked anime, but when you see him and he's got like his bed sheets are like Goku and his like alarm clock is like some other anime I've never watched before. It's actually very cool to be that into something. It made me feel
I'm just waiting for a couple of seasons to now come out, because I watched so much stuff here over the past years now, and there are so many animes, but so many are just like shit. But also so many that are just like absolutely insanely good. And some are worth rewatching. So, for example, Naruto, I watched a couple of times. Dragon Ball, I watched a couple of times. So.
I realized I've never actually watched... I thought I watched Dragon Ball, like most of the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But I think I'd only watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I haven't seen Dragon Ball Z, like Super. And I hadn't seen like a lot of the... like Frieza and his later stages and stuff, and like I was like, where is all of this? I need to actually search the net and find it.
Yeah. So I've never watched all of the movies, some of them though, but the Broly one is actually very good.
I've watched that
the new one.
Oh, no, wait, I haven't. I've only watched the one with the weird rabbit god destructor.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only one I've watched.
Beerus.
Yeah, Beerus. What...
If you are listening to that now, probably I've cut away all of the things that we said over the past 10 minutes. Not because there were things in there that we can't really speak out loudly, but just because we talked about Pokemon cards, animes we watched as a kid, and perhaps you're now at a point where I still left it in. Don't know. I think it will cut it out though, because so many people are just like already commenting in the comment section saying like, boring, start at 40 minutes in, please. So here we are now, another week. So Steve, how are you doing?
God damn, I'm really upset right now. I've just got some horrible news, Pascal.
What is
from
it?
you, telling me that well, our listeners don't listening to the intro of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, I am good. Yeah, things are nice. It's not boiling hot anymore. It's kind of reasonable outside, which is making sleeping, training better. I'm in the 3rd week of my mesocycle now. I'm actually surprised. Like, I'm normally, like, under best intentions, trying to gain at quite a reasonable pace. And it normally goes a bit slower than that. But I'm actually right on track. So I had a 186 pound weigh-in this week. So that's 6 pounds up from when I dieted down to 180 pounds, which is reasonable and still hold, like, I think I may have even said it on the podcast before. It's like this honeymoon period after you're quite lean where you just kind of fill out and you're still relatively lean. So you're still in the low teens or something. And you could just look kind of better and better. I feel like that's probably slowly fading. I want to hold on to it as long as possible. But I know once that goes, I just need to focus on training. And yeah, I've been enjoying one of the fun things about training at home, for me at least, is it's so much easier to get like physique shots because I'm allowed to be semi-naked at home and I can like pose on my balcony. People across the way might be able to see me. I don't know. They probably can.
Our supporter doesn't care. Like Andrew, I know that he's just like ripping all of his clothes off and just standing there and flexing it all.
Funny story, our guy Elias, when he came over and we were training together, he wanted to get like a shot with me and he was in very good condition at the time. And he went to take off his like his trousers and like get into a shot so we could do it. And then the manager like ran over and was like, "What are you doing? You can't do this in here." And it was just, not very nice. So we're not allowed to flex.
What's people's problem with that one? I mean,
he's a young, attractive male, very low body fat. What's not to like?
Probably he was just offended because he found himself finding that one actually quite pleasing to watch. And he never had that before. Like, an absolute denial that he's gay. Like, no, I'm not gay. I don't find that attractive. Stop it. And now kiss me.
But yeah, I don't think I've got really anything. There's just nothing particularly exciting. And I don't think there needs to be an amassing phase. I think if your mass phase is just quite, like, there's not too much to report, it's probably a good thing. How are things on your end?
Absolutely. Yeah, on my end, sorry, it was just like the small delay here at Zoom. The typical thing of, what did you say? Sorry. Sorry. No, go ahead. So yeah, no, on my end, same story. Right now, sitting at around 79.5 at the moment. So getting closer and closer to the 80 kilogram mark. But it's the same as you. Once I'm there, I just need to focus on other things as well. Just like focusing on just like ticking off the boxes so that I'm actually moving forward instead of letting myself get, I don't know, carried away due to things that simply don't matter in an acute sense. And we talked about it here the last time already. Ultimately, you want to see the scale weight going up with a better body composition, right? That's the ultimate goal. And thus, not trying to let the scale weight impact me too much negatively. Just like focusing on going in there, training, ticking off those boxes, eating well, resting well, and just like being conscious about my training, especially. Like every single time I'm done with a session, also then the following day, I'm asking myself like, okay, how am I feeling? How are my muscles feeling at the moment? Am I fatigued? Are they locally fatigued? Could I do more for the next time? And then I'm already sitting down and planning perhaps even the next session because I can already either tell that it worked or that I need to bump something up. Maybe, I don't know, the intensity or the volume and stuff like that. But I'm more cautious with just making volume increases, especially when you're training twice daily, because it can easily get out of hand, right? If you were to only add even one set per session, this quickly adds up because you have 12 sessions throughout the entire week. I don't know how you feel about it and how you go about like set progressions when training twice daily. Is there anything different about how you approach things?
It has been so long since I've trained once a day that I I actually don't know, but I think the same kind of overarching theme of just auto-regulating things. So identifying like how stimulating something was, how like I'm recovering between sessions. But it tends to go quite smoothly. Typically, it's 1 to 2 sets per muscle group within a week. For some smaller muscle groups, I can increase them by more. They're at higher frequencies. It's quite easy. And I will be honest, I think there's probably times at which I don't even increase it, even if I could, for some smaller muscle groups, something like traps. I do some trap work. I know I'm not probably taking it to its MRV, but my traps are okay. And I'm just more focused on other muscle groups that I prioritize. Same with biceps. I don't particularly push the volume very hard on those. I know they're above MEV, but I don't know that I'm taking them to their maximal capacity. But I'd be probably limiting other growth elsewhere if I was to do that.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, if you then try to increase every single muscle part with set volumes, then you're coming quickly to a point where then the performance will probably dip at some other place. So funny enough, this is something that I just talked about with one of my athletes, that if you feel all right at one day, right, and you increase it the other day, that one day will always then probably be impacted by the other days. So what I mean by that is if that one day you feel great, so you bump it up, then the next day, though, was impacted by the previous day, even if it's a different muscle group as well. Of course, due to systemic and due to systemic fatigue, then carrying over. If you then auto-regulate the thing that day, then you are doing less because you feel impacted by the previous day. Then the next day comes around. Of course, you feel a little bit better because you have done a little bit less the other day. Once again, you increase the volume. And if you do that, just like too auto-regulative, right, then you end up with having very easy days and very hard days. But you are still getting fatigued overall, right? And that's why, same as you, sometimes I just keep things static because as long as I feel, all right, I can wholeheartedly say that I stimulated that muscle group. I feel fatigue locally right now. Next day, I may feel it also in just being a little bit fatigued already. That is, for me, a good indicator that possibly I don't need to increase it. If I feel absolutely fresh the next day, then I think is the time to actually think about and consider a set increase.
Yeah, it's something I think we both use within our programming spreadsheets with clients is kind of essentially a leading fatigue indicator. It's like when you go into that session, how are you feeling? We're not planning kind of how you feel then for that session. It's planning it for the next one to avoid the case of when you feel good, just do loads. But then you just know the next time you're going to feel really bad. You have to kind of lead it in. You can't just like be very reactive like that. And there are cases you can do that, but you have to know yourself so well to be able to do that.
This is what the concept of APRE is based on, of having that auto-regulative approach on a session-per-session basis. But yeah, it has its ups and downs as well, pros and cons. So yeah, there are so many ways to be honest. And I think that, once again, so often we are caught in the minutiae. And in the end, if you can say once again and ask yourself this question after a training session and maybe the day after, okay, am I feeling that I trained that muscle group? And you can say yes, probably you are absolutely on the right track.
Yeah, I think it's something I never even thought about. And it's only something I've more thought about in the last like couple of years. And it's been so beneficial because it's kind of giving a lot of more insight and guidance into my training rather than just doing it and hoping for the best. It's kind of like, well, actually, how is my body responding to the stimulus that it's being given? And then that's like, oh, that's been very, very decent. And it's the same for some exercises are just dog shit for me. Yeah. And you realize that through assessing it, giving it some time, you just realize, oh, this isn't for me. So yeah, are there any movements that you're doing at the moment? I know you've started leg pressing again. How's that going? Is there anything that's feeling great? It's
kind of a love-hate relationship, right? I'm always giving it a try, always. And you know that from when you've listened through all of the Improvement Season podcasts. I think I'm trying it since a couple of years now to make it work for me. Always playing with different stance. The thing is, because of my hip, I can't really have a wide stance because it immediately irritates my left hip. So I have to take a more narrow stance. But with a more narrow stance, it could be that my my lower back is rounding a little bit quicker, depending on the machine then, of course. And now, because I've changed gyms, there's a different leg press machine, and I just gave it a try, and it's all right. I think that judging by one session is never a good idea.
Yeah.
So I will definitely give it a try for a couple of sessions, see how it feels, and I think I can make it work for me.
That's good. I'm excited actually to go back to some of these machines that I haven't used in months now and see how they feel, just like not having done it in a long time. Because sometimes I get that with movements where I decide that it's no good for me or something like that, but it's just ended up getting stale. And then I don't do it for ages, come back and I'm like, oh, that's feeling much better than I remember it feeling. So yeah, that's a cool
what I also had to realize is that, once again, and I said it, I think, in an early episode, and to some of my athletes as well, that the lockdown for me personally was a blessing in disguise, because I took a huge step away from my ego and actually stopped, because I never had actually any kind of reference point with all of the movements that I've been doing from at home. So I had to really listen to my body and feel it out. Thus, I got so much more in tune with my actual RER. And I think that at times I got complacent in the gym, where I was just like, I went in there, I had something on the plan, I just executed that without really being super focused and without getting out of my comfort zone. And for me, it was kind of very much a good thing that this happened, because now I'm back at the gym. I'm very much, once again, aware of where I'm at a given time, and also what I need to do in that moment. And I'm very focused each and every single set that I'm doing, and trying my very best just to give it my all. And also just like, okay, was this really a 3 RER? Probably not. Probably I could have actually pushed for more, right? And this is what I've been doing now with the last mesocycle, and now also with this one. Whoever says that something like 3 RER, 2 RER, 1 RER or so is easy, sorry, but it's not. It's not, especially not if you are doing like 3 sets of something. It isn't. And this just, once again, just has proven to me that if you go there, it is freaking challenging still.
Yeah. Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service that will take your physique and knowledge to the next level. If you're interested, check the description and sign up.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, I don't know, I can't think what it's like. If you're saying, if squats hurt, you're not squatting, or something along those lines, where, because you're probably doing something that's not a squat. It's like, if 3 2 RER is easy to you, you're probably not doing a 3 or 2 RER. It's probably like 6, or like, it's like 5, and you're not quite getting there. Because it's really funny to me, because I think, what's the difference between 0 RER, a failure basically, and 3? So, well, 3 reps. There's not really that big a difference then, is it? No. It's like very close. So it's always funny when that happens. And like you said, and we're talking about kind of listening to your body and the disruption, the soreness, the pump, kind of making sure that it's feeling locally fatigued. You definitely get locally fatigued through that style of training. And sure, you could argue, it's because you do loads of volume, but no. Week 1 of a mesocycle, you're doing your minimum effective volume, so sets are very low, and you're training at that lower relative intensity. You still want to feel that disruption, and you do if you're doing things effectively. If training is easy in any week where you're accumulating and it's meant to be homeostatically disruptive, that's something's wrong. Whether that's just your head or actually what you're doing in the gym, that's not kind of correct. So,
and at the same time, I just love training at the moment again. I go into each and every single session. I just love it. I want to get the most out of the next upcoming month, and I have the feeling that mentally and also physically I'm in the best spot since like maybe my entire life.
That's awesome. That I always say it to clients, because we know the placebo effect is so strong and mindset is very, very strong. So I always say to them, when they tell me like things are going well and they're really enjoying the program, they're bought into things, I'm like, ride that wave so hard. I'm like, I'm the best coach in the world. What I gave you is the most anabolic program ever. Ride it hard and keep going, because when you really think what you're doing is spot on, if you keep questioning yourself, it doesn't matter if it is right or wrong, you're never going to be able to get the most out of it. Whereas if you believe what you're doing is right and it's growing you like nothing else, you'll probably grow the best you ever could off it.
I mean, I still have absolute doubts all the time, right? Where I'm just where I'm just like picking apart my program and thinking like, okay, am I doing enough here? Should I add something here? Am I picking the right exercise? Am I really pushing it hard enough? Should I do more? Should I do less? Whatever, right? Still, a constant cycle of self-doubt is still present. But at the same time, when the time comes, I go in the gym and I don't really think or question myself of like, okay, is this the real thing? Am I doing things correctly? No, I'm going in there with the intention of giving it my all, right? Doing my very best with each and every single repetition and set of feeding the muscle the best way possible, stimulating it to the highest extent, and just improving. It's kind of practice. Every single time you're going into the gym, it's practicing, right, of getting better. And when you go in there, then it also there, once again, the minute details, they count over the long term, as long as you don't ignore them. But still, when the time comes, it's just like go time. You go in there, you train, you stimulate the muscle. And this is where so many bros and so many people that just like go hard have an advantage, because they go in there without a plan. You, on the other hand, you have an idea of what it is that you're doing. Now you just need to bring the intensity. And once you do that, you will be growing, and the thought process can come afterwards, where the reflection of the program, what it is that you're doing right now or over the entire mesocycle can come in. But you should never feel like, if you are in absolute doubt of it being stimulative, then something is completely wrong. Because then either you're not executing the things with proper technique, when you simply don't feel it where you are supposed to be feeling it, the exercises are simply not for you, or whatever. Because every single session should at least leave you drained and leave you knowing and saying wholeheartedly, yes, I trained that particular muscle group. And not going in there, I was supposed to do lower body session, but my lower back is fried now. Probably not the way to go, right? And you should leave the gym being absolutely, if someone comes up to you and says like, okay, what did you train? You should be able to say like, okay, I trained legs. And not just because it was on your program, but because you feel like it, right? And as long as you do that, then I think you are on a good track, because we've seen it over and over and over again that there's so many people that train without a plan that get massive, right? And if that's the other way around for you, you train a lot, but nothing is happening, possibly it may also be that the intensity is just like missing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to analogize it, but it was like when I discovered macros and then like calories and calorie balance. It's like, I know if I eat this much, I'm in a deficit, and I weigh myself and the scale's going down over the long term. I know things are going right. Whereas there are people who will, I don't know, use clever calculators and they do all of this fancy stuff. They eat clean foods or whatever it is. They won't be losing weight because they're not focusing on the right things to be focusing on. And there'll be people who are just barely eating anything and getting hungry and starving. It's like they actually probably lose weight, even though it's not the smartest thing to do. They're achieving what they need to do, like the principle of the calorie deficit, just like the guys who don't have a plan going to the gym, but they're hitting muscles and they're training them hard. It's kind of, that's the bare basics of it. And sometimes people get so focused on, I have to like do this specific plan, but it's like, no, like just focus, have a plan, but make sure it's achieving these boxes as well.
And this is where I absolutely understand where the people are then coming from and saying like, okay, just go in there and train hard and eat well. We've talked about it just a couple of weeks ago that it is in it for itself a very lazy statement. But I understand where this notion is coming from, because yes, fundamentally speaking, this is what needs to be ticked off first before anything else, right? Before considering anything about set increases or what exercises really to pick, whether you should pick a hack squat over a leg press or do something like a hack squat before the squats even or so, right? Before you're thinking about stuff like that, right? Yes, we can be a little bit more bro-ish. It's absolutely all right. Go in there, train hard, and eat well. And if you know that you're doing that, yes, take it a step further, I would recommend. That's also probably why you're listening here as well, right? Take it a step further, but still, always keep those fundamental principles in mind and keep the boxes ticked. Never, ever let those boxes be unticked. And I think, at least that's what I was guilty of in the past. And I think that many people are guilty of that as well. That perhaps they are just getting complacent and they are trying to find the solution in other things that simply don't require you to work as hard or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's mastering the basics can never be lost. The basics work at the start, but they never stop being important for people. It's not like they stop working. It's just you need to be a bit clever about working those basics and having layers on top of it now. Very well said. Very well said.
What I want every listener to take away, I know this podcast, every once in a while, we're saying things where people are just then commenting and saying like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? We're just human beings after all as well. We have our opinions. We have our thoughts that we just like throw out without sometimes even thinking about them too much. However, what I want that everyone is now doing, everyone who's listening, sit down and really think about, okay, how hard did I train here in the last couple of weeks? Did I really go in there each and every single session? And did I really leave the gym feeling like I've trained? And this is just like we just had a consultation before that, and there I said it as well, like a kind and gentle kick up your ass and saying like, hey, here's a quick reminder. This is what's actually important. Have you done that? Can you say that you tick that box? And if you don't, hey, this is a gift now, because then you can go out and do something about it. And if you did that, perfect. Continue doing it.
That intent is so valuable, and that's why it's really important to start. And why I like starting at minimum effective volume, because it means like you don't have many sets to get really right. And if you start with that foundation, that's great. If you start with a lot of sets at the start, it's very easy to get tired rather than actually have the intent on the muscle. So that's why I really like the idea of starting low and building up at some stage. You don't build up until you've got those sets feeling like they're doing something.
Yeah. It's the typical saying like quality over quantity.
You got to start quality.
Don't just make up the lack of quality with adding some quantity there.
Totally. I don't know if there's anything else interesting going on to talk about. I don't think so.
No.
I am actually one thing. I don't know if you've seen. So Eric Helms had a podcast where he was talking about progression, set progression actually, with Omar Isuf, and I've watched that. I think you may have watched it now. So
I haven't watched it. I just listened to the one over on Mars, the article that he has written there, just in an audio format. So basically, I think it covered the same things that he probably brought up in the podcast as well.
Yeah, maybe it did. That happened, and then Mike's done a rebuttal, which I've just been reading through over on the RP website, which was great. It's really cool seeing them going back and forth. And I am incredibly gutted because we know that the seminar, that was the opportunity for them to do it live in person. Now, I don't know how it's going to move forward from this back and forth, and I do recommend people check out either Mass or check out the podcast with Omar, and the Renaissance Periodization one is on their website for free. Definitely check those out, but it just gives me like goosebumps thinking like next year, hopefully this is all going down in person. It's going to be very exciting. And someone commented saying like, oh, Steve, you should host a roundtable with them to talk it out. And whilst I'd love to do that, I expect they may do it on Omar's channel, considering that's where Eric's first kind of statements came out about it. But this is, I would say, mostly minutia, because I think on the whole, like the top level, surface level stuff, they're agreeing in terms of like the principles, and like the many roads to Rome saying comes into my mind. But it is interesting to see, because it's quite a big fundamental portion within a mesocycle, at least, to either have set progression or not. And I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong answer. I don't think we can say that yet. So it's very interesting seeing two very intelligent people talk it out. But yeah, it's just, again, I just brought it up because it made me very excited for the seminar that hopefully, fingers crossed, will be running next year. I mean, we don't know, but I'm hoping there'll actually be a vaccine by then. And then Eric will be free from New Zealand, which is probably the hardest place to get someone out of. They have the strictest lockdown conditions, I think, out of the US and the UK.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't think
I have nothing to say there.
Should we get to questions? Because I feel like we didn't talk about questions that much last time. So, do you want to go off? I don't have them up on Facebook. Do we want to go for the Facebook ones? Are there any supporter questions?
No.
Okay.
Should I just read them?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So Sam Jazzy, my man. I have no idea whether I pronounce his last name, even though that is my athlete. Oh boy, sorry, Sam.
The action man, Sam.
Yeah, he's looking insane. Go check him out over on Instagram if you want to just like see a crazy physique.
Envision Fitness, I think is his
Envision tag. Fitness, exactly. And when does the tactic of using a down set become pointless? Technically, you could keep dropping the weight to stay in your rep range, especially considering that 30% of your 1 rep max is usually as low as one would want to go when the focus is building muscle tissue.
So I think for me, I don't tend to add a down set. So I come into a session knowing how many sets I probably want to be doing within that session. I might auto-regulate up or down 1 set, but it's not like I'm adding loads or removing loads. So when I go into a session, I've correctly auto-regulated up to that point where I'm like, I know this is going to be stimulative. I know I'm recovering from this amount of sets. This is going to be productive work that I'm doing now. So I don't go into a session and like, I'm like, oh, if I did another down set, I can do another set and stay in the rep range, and I could keep doing that. So within the context of making sure that you're working with a number of sets that is stimulative, but also a number that you can recover from, unless it's your MRV or above at the final week, I think like that's as many down sets. Like I count them as ordinary sets. Essentially, it's at a lower weight. So I think your limit is you've moved towards it in a calculated way. You haven't just decided this session I'm going to add a load of down sets. I hope that makes sense. I think it's the context is always so important.
Same here. I count down, drop sets or down sets basically the same as you. That it's just like a normal set, but if you can't recover properly from the heavier load, something like that is highly systemically fatiguing, such as back squats. If you're that strong and 1 set of back squats is already kind of bashing you into the ground, and you know that the performance on the second set, if you keep it as a straight set, is just like subpar, you just do a drop set just to be able to get a little bit higher reps in, a little bit more volume overall, and so that the performance isn't just like super, super low. And that is, for me personally, where then something like a down set comes in. But once again, it is being counted as then kind of like if you do 1 normal straight or normal set and then a down set, it's for me still 2 sets.
Very much the same. Yeah, the stimulus to fatigue ratio just improves. I tend to introduce down sets more so in the second and third mesocycles, because in the first, you're kind of, if you've come out of a low volume phase, your fatigue you don't need as much volume to tend to, and your fatigue is a bit lower. But when you try and keep that 5 to 10 rep range a lot of the time, it just, especially when you are like dealing with more advanced, like Sam is, like he's a strong guy, you just get beat into the ground, like you said, and the SFR drops off. I actually wasn't adding anything there. I was just saying, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Michael Kutsikos, top 3 mistakes, issues you often come across in intermediate lifters who have some experience under the belts and come to you for advice.
So this is Harry's client, I think.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. I should bring it up. Maybe you can answer it first, Pascal, but I did a post on my Instagram saying what they were. And I want to quote the right...
I would love to actually then hear them first, to be honest.
Okay,
but,
so I can find it fairly quick.
So top 3, I don't know if that's the top 3 mistakes, because I hardly ever think about stuff like that, to be honest. And that's why I can't really just like bring up that information from the top of my head. Do you have 5?
5.
Okay.
So
do you want to start off
5? Sorry.
Do you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll go ahead with these and see if they are ones that you would agree. 5 common traits of people I see not getting the results they could, which I think probably applies to this question quite well. I said too much focus on the outcome. They get bored easily. They lack confidence in their actions, focusing more on others than themselves, and they do more thinking than doing. I think the last one kind of sums up a lot of the
and this
four.
is something that I would have brought up as point number 1 about the thing that we just talked about, of focusing too much on the things that don't really matter while neglecting the things that do matter. I don't know. Also here, a perfect word becomes like becoming complacent in the things of like, okay, what is it that you want to achieve? How do you get there the most efficiently? And is then what you're thinking about actually helping the cause of getting there more effectively or quicker? And most of the time, they are just like lost in a maze, because the gains that they may have seen or experienced in the beginning aren't the gains that they are seeing and experiencing now anymore. They are finally intermediates, and everything changes then. Okay, not everything like to the extent of like the physiological things, but more so in the sense of like you are not expecting to see those massive changes anymore on a quick basis, or even something like strength increases where you're just like, you're getting stronger in each and every single repetition range, right? You're looking more swole, you're losing fat at the same time while building muscle mass. No. At some point, people think that they've stalled, while in reality, that is just like starting to be true progress.
Yeah, I think things slow down so much that people start questioning themselves so much, and they start delving into advanced concepts, and then they forgo, they miss the forest for the trees essentially, and they get the cart before the horse, and that's where then they do stall and they see lack of progress, because they start forgetting what got them to where they need to, and they need to layer on top rather than insert something else. It's like typical one for me is, and I work with some very kind of educated and guys who have been training a long time, and sometimes I will be like, we aren't seeing the results we should be, and I'll check over. I'll be like, can you send me your MyFitnessPal, and I'll check over, and I'll be like, dude, this, like you said, eating mostly like good foods, this is not good food. You are not spreading your protein out very well here. Like, it's basics, bare basics, but they're focused more on, I don't know, BCAAs or something like, should I take BCAAs or EAAs intra-workout or something? And it's like, well, you're not even eating your protein spread through like 3 to 4 feedings. You're like having a massive amount at one time and then barely any, and you're not eating for like 8 hours. It's like those sort of basic things. Like, whenever you feel like something's not quite going right, don't focus on the advanced stuff. Focus on what you're like the basics and build up first. So I think, yeah, that's the most common.
No, absolutely. And I just want to add something to that as well, because whatever has worked in the past doesn't mean that it's working now anymore. So as a beginner, most of the time, you can get away with a lot of shit and still see the progress. But at some point, that shit doesn't work for you anymore. All right? And then other things need to be looked at, and that is not the minutia which I referred to early on. These are still the basic things, but the basic things weren't as important in the beginning. The basic things in the beginning were just like, go in there, do one set that is hard, and you can go home, eat a little bit of protein, and probably still see some progress, because this is overloading to what you've done before. And before that, you've been just sitting on the couch and watching Netflix. So everything is overloading now, right? But at some point, sleep becomes more important. Nutrient timing becomes more important. What it is that you are eating becomes more important. The intensity becomes more important, right? Mind-muscle connection, the biofeedback that you're getting. So listening and taking a closer look at these things, at some point, it becomes non-negotiable if you are really serious about making progress. And especially when it comes to something like sleep, right? I mean, it's crazy. It's such a common thing to see just like fucked up sleep all across the Western society. We have so many people, or I can only speak for myself, of course, but I have so many people who are approaching the coaching, and the sleep is only at around 5 to 6 hours of sleep per night. Right? And if someone of my athletes is now listening, this is also something that I told you, right? And on a constant basis, like, okay, let's try to see whether we can improve it somehow. Even getting in like 30 minutes of more sleep per night is probably already adding up.
Huge.
Because by the end of the week, you have 3.5 hours more sleep, which is for some people half a night already, right? So yeah, there will be things that you can't then neglect anymore. And if you're not taking then care of these things, you can't really complain of not seeing the progress that you would like.
Yeah, I think it's like the meme where that kid is like at the bottom stair and then he like jumps 5 stairs to like this top stair, and like there's all this beforehand. It's like spreading out your protein typing, making sure you're getting plenty of sleep, good technique, good execution, good intensity. It's like, no, I'm going to go for, I don't know, volume progression or whatever it is. Like over all of this, it's like, these are foundation. Like get to these first. So,
and
yeah,
also
well
once
said.
again brings me back to the people who are then advocating of like, okay, something like ARIA or volume progression is like shit. Just go in there and push it to failure. And we know that it kind of works for some people. For some, it doesn't, right? And that's where then the people are just like seeking for a solution of why they don't see the progress that other people are seeing with that approach. But in it for itself, it has resulted, it has led to a lot of good results for a lot of people. And in it for itself, that is just like ticking off one very, very important piece of the puzzle. And that is, once again, the intensity and the intent going into the gym. And it's also then easy to track the progress, because if you're getting stronger in a higher repetition range, there's a very high likelihood that you are then also building some muscle mass, right? So probably one leads to the other, vice versa. But once again, if you're ticking off that boxes, and it's very straightforward, which also makes it easier, right? If you're then already starting with quadruple progression, you have a repetition range, you have relative intensity, you have load on the bar, and you're also doing some set progression as well, it then becomes like a complete mess for some people to just like, okay, have I actually making any kind of progress, or is that just like, I don't know where I'm at? Right? It's kind of, you bring always up the analogy with a map, and it is kind of as if you have a map that you simply can't read. You have everything in front of you, but you can't figure anything out. It's just like a mystery to you, right? And then it doesn't help you in any sense or shape or way.
Hey, Pascal here. I just wanted to take the moment to talk about our membership site. Inside, you'll find a thriving forum, an extensive exercise library, courses, presentations, and research reviews. All I need you to do is hit the link in the description below and sign up. See you there.
A lot of the time, like the best programs are the most simple to execute and just nail.
And what's wrong with that?
No, nothing.
Nothing, right? And that is, I think, what many people are, I don't know, afraid of. That is too simplistic, that it needs to be complex or so. But actually, if it's easy to follow, it's the same when it comes to understanding or learning some new skill. When has it ever helped the majority of people to bring over or to try to explain a very complex topic in a very complex fashion? It hasn't, right? You want to actually make it as easy as possible to understand, and so that people can actually learn that and move forward. And that's the same thing that applies to training and nutrition as well. Only make it as complex as it needs to be. And if it's above your head, man, there's no shame in actually pulling back and just like doing it simplistically, because the simple stuff, sometimes most often even the best stuff, at least when it comes to, I don't know, music and art maybe and stuff.
Yeah, I think your statement of make it as simple, or maybe rather make it as complex as it needs to be and no more, because simple, if you can explain a program, you can see all the principles being ticked off, awesome. Like if that's really simple, probably better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's once again me, right?
Sorry, yeah, I normally ask the questions.
Pete Dawson asks, any non-physique supps practices you recommend for mood, energy, health, skin, whatever?
Any podcasts?
Supps and practices. Supplements.
Oh, Oh, okay. Sorry. Ooh. I mean, I think health and physique is intertwined. So the healthier you are as an individual, probably the better off your physique progress is going to be. Not always, because I think sometimes we have to sacrifice a little bit of health to get more from your physique, to stress it to a certain point, especially if you're stepping on stage. That's not the healthiest thing, but you probably can take supplements during that period of time to make it a healthier process overall. For me, the basic ones that I take for like health is omega-3s when I don't have fatty fish. I think omega-3s have been a bit up in the air of whether or not that you should be or shouldn't be, and I just take it as more of I haven't seen any massive reasons not to, so at the moment it's just like a bit of a security blanket. I take magnesium pre-bed. That seems to have pretty decent support for helping sleep, and a lot of people who train hard are low on that. Same with zinc. I take that in the morning before eating, because I think that's meant to be better for actually being able to uptake it and digest it. But again, I take that as a lot of people do what we do. We demand more vitamins and minerals because we push our bodies harder than a lot of people. That seems to be one that is probably one that we could be a little bit lower on, so you could take it. Vitamin D, kind of obvious one. I need to get better actually at taking that. I need to take it like 7 tabs on one day of the week, because it's fat soluble, so you hold on to it, because I always forget to take it like on a daily basis. I just never remember to do it. I think those are all the ones. I mean, creatine, I think even has some health benefits, like for like brain function and stuff like that. So I think creatine monohydrate, you could even count as like a health sup, but they're the only ones I think I take. Oh, ashwagandha. I don't know if you could take that as a health supplement, but it's certainly not necessarily like directly physique. Pascal knows I am an anxious individual. I think my baseline level of anxiety is probably higher than some people, probably higher than Pascal's. So I have found that having ashwagandha in there, has ashwagandha K66, because that's the one that they study. I found that tends to just make me feel a bit
KSM 66.
KSM, yeah, KSM. Sorry, K66. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's like all I take as well. I think that's all the supplements I take.
Stop. I mean, it's same for me when it comes to these kind of supplementations and kind of practices you're doing.
Practices. I watch Netflix in the evening. There's actually, I can't think that I do anything. I use full range of motion training for my mobility. I warm up before my sessions. I train with good form and take fatigue management, take my rest days, take my deloads, take my low volume blocks. But apart from that, yeah, I don't do any. I like the idea of getting into meditation. And I was at one point doing, I think, 3 minutes on an app every morning as I sat on the toilet in the mornings, which was
took it
pretty much. So I was trying to, Pascal,
and now relax. Oh yeah, I'm at it.
You're probably like me. But I have to, like something like meditation, it's time I'm doing, it feels like time. I know it's a really bad view of it, I think. Like it's time I'm doing nothing. Like if I'm walking, I want to be at least like listening to a podcast or leaving a voice message. Or if I'm like, whatever I'm doing, I want to be doing something that feels productive. And meditation to me never feels particularly productive. So I've always struggled with it. I know there's decent evidence behind it. It's not actually just like wishy-washy. There's actually support for it. But no, I don't do anything.
I just remember vividly though, when I was younger, there was, I don't know where it was, but kind of a relaxation thing where we then was in kind of I don't know what to call it, a relaxation room. So we needed to lie down, each and every one for themselves, and just like lying still. And we were supposed to just let go and not think of anything. And I was just lying there. And I was just thinking, like, okay, how am I supposed to be doing that? I can't relax here. Like, this is boring. Come on, let's get up again. That is also the same when it comes to sunbathing or so. When you're just like lying in the park or on the beach, it's just like after 5 minutes, I'm just out of there because it's just too boring. And so. In that sense, with relaxation techniques, just looking at a wall and trying to not think of anything at all is not working for me. Don't know. I'd rather take the melatonin and just like switch off.
Yeah, I know. The only other thing I can think of that I've seen some people trying is like the grounding, where they like go barefoot onto grass and kind of takes, I don't know exactly the science behind it or what that it's meant to do, like take the negative energy out of them or something along those lines, like in a sense cleanse you a little bit. Or what is it? Martin McDonald did a post about this person who was basically, they like lie on their back and like open up their butthole for the sun. I wanted to, if you could say that with a straight face, you do that every morning. That'd be great.
I saw a meme. I think it was kind of a guide, right? A picture, just a meme. It wasn't a meme. It was like a picture guide, I think, where there was the description on how to do it. And I think Mike even posted that one. And I just thought, like, what the fuck? Some people.
They can burn their assholes.
I mean, we could be absolutely biased here. And we don't even know what we are missing. So maybe we should give it a try before actually being so judgmental about it.
I think there probably is something to this, Pascal. I wonder if you'd say that. But I know this is going to sound a bit wishy-washy and potentially, but I think there probably is something to it in terms of like getting some time with nature, like getting away from like a city or something. And,
I love it.
Being, like that. I can feel the benefits of it. I don't know if it's just psychological or if there's any physiological things going on, but that feels nice. Like when I can get away.
Funny enough, like last weekend, Katie and I, together with the kids, we were at that huge playground, and it was supposed to be at a what was it? A huge park from a borough, right? So we went there. We thought that we are just like in nature. However, it was packed with people, right? And I was just like, I was never that type of guy who likes something like that. I'm rather like, okay, let's go into the forest and just like walk through the forest. There's so much more me. And I was there and it was stressing me out big time. And you are actually going there with the intention that it's a good time, but in return, it was just like a super stressful time. And the same applies to Katie as well. She said like, okay, this is simply not us. Like, and she's right now, at the time of the recording, together with Hugo and Tony at a playground in the midst of the forest, funny enough. And she just recorded a voice message right before we came on here saying like, Hugo is the only kid that is playing there. So for Hugo, it's a little bit boring, but she said that it was so beautiful there. And I'd rather go on something like a hiking holiday or so, where you don't really have a lot of people. Maybe you're seeing some on the road or so, but other than that, you're not just like in the midst of a bigger city. And that is so much more me than taking a holiday in a big city or so.
Yeah, city breaks are great. Like they can be great because it's like can be educational and interesting, seeing architecture, especially like around Europe. But I always come back more stressed from those sort of holidays. Where if it's like not that either of us like relaxing and like chilling out, but if I can like swim in a pool and then like chill on the side for a few minutes, or like go for a hike and be on the outdoors, that's always more relaxing. So yeah, I don't know. No, I think maybe I should every 6 months have one of these in my calendar, like a detox like hiking holiday. We should have like a Revive Stronger hiking trip like programmed in every 6 months. That'd be sweet. That'd be
I told you at some point about the dream that I always had of spending the New Year's Eve somewhere in Norway or Sweden in a lonely cabin, only together with my dog, and then going out there in the midst of the snow and just like chopping some wood, going back into the cabin, lighting some fire, and just like relaxing together with my best buddy by my side. And now I got a family. So
I can do it. It's fine. I can live the dream for you.
Yeah, please do so. Let's move on to the last question here. Ibrahim Abu Enor. In regards to hamstrings training with light weights, when I reach the 13 to 14 repetition mark, my lower back taps out and limits the movement, while my hamstrings can go for ages. Any tips or fixes you might recommend for this issue? Thanks, guys.
Interesting question. I don't know if he's differentiating between a hip hinge and a like leg curl variant. He hasn't in that question, I don't think. I tend to find being in a leg curl, seated or lying, that a particular lying leg curl, it's your lower back doesn't tend to come into it so much. It's more the hips. So I assume he's talking about hip hinges. And yeah, I find for some people going above 10 reps, their lower back limits them, and that becomes a limiting factor. And I think that is probably a problem, and that you don't want to be doing that. So you might just work in the like 5 to 10 repetition range for your hip hinge movements. I find I'm okay going up to 15, and my hamstrings can still be the limiting factor. I can't go above 15 reps. My lower back will be the limiting factor, and probably it's very similar to like a barbell back squat. Even my lower back or my cardio would be the limiting factor above like 15 reps. Even that's quite high. So I think for him, just a simple switch around of keep your intensity within the 5 to 10 repetition range for the most part, probably solve it a lot. One other thing is I find I was falling into this a lot, and I'm a little bit sad that I only called myself out on it a bit late with my straight leg deadlifts. At least I had everything ticked off. So I had the control good, I had my knees were in a good position, they were soft, my hips were high, but I was letting my back fall in out of neutral and actually into potentially a bit of kyphosis. So my lower back was rounding, and then as I'm coming up from the lift, I'm just fighting to get back into neutral, and it shifts all the load to my lower back. And I know it was because I feel it in my lower back the next day. It may feel also in my hamstrings, but also felt my lower back. And I asked Jared to review my form, and he was basically called me out on it. And I knew it in myself, like, you know when you know it, but you just need someone to say it to you. And yeah, since having that, I just have more emphasis on keeping my lower back arched, keeping the hips high. And man, the stimulus to fatigue ratio just shoots up. Yes, you have to use lighter loads, but I literally don't care because now I'm not feeling as fried. My lower back's feeling better, I'm feeling it more in the hamstrings. So I feel like a lot of people overlook that.
Yeah, and I find it so freaking refreshing and freeing once you decoupled yourself from your own ego. Like when it comes to the load on the bar and the emotional attachment to that, I found it so freeing. And ever since then, the training is as productive as never before. And it's hard. It's hard. I think that females do such a better job in actually being detached from ego lifting and start lifting properly from very early on. Whereas males have most of the time a huge ego problem, especially when they are training in a gym facility and other people are watching as well. Maybe it is also a little bit just due to normal evolution that you always want to impress other people and want to be, I don't know, I hate that term, the alpha guy or so. But maybe there is something to that. And working on yourself and detaching yourself from ego lifting is, so last week people asked us what the biggest game changer was in terms of training, and this is one of them, of like letting the ego go and actually not giving a fuck of what other people at the gym think about you, whether you're using a light load or not. I find joy and happiness right now in using those small dumbbells for something like dumbbell lateral raises when other people are looking at me and I'm just bigger than them. And I use those tiny weights, right? And they just look at me, and I find joy in that as well, because I know, like, yes, this is what it actually looks like. So yeah,
it's, I think finding pride more in your technique and your execution is important as a physique athlete rather than the load on the bar. I think a lot of people, it makes sense for powerlifters to be very shouty about the load that they're using because that's what their sport is directly rewarded by. But for a physique competitor, you are not rewarded by how much you can lift. It's just for your own ego and just for Instagram. So if you're posting up a lift and you're like, oh, look how amazing this is. I mean, that's fine, especially if you have good execution, but realize that if you have poor execution or your execution could be better, that load really, I mean, it's just fueling your own ego and not actually fueling your physique progress in that sense.
Yeah, and also my perception has changed in that what it was that you brought up. I am nowadays way more impressed with just good technique. And I don't even look at the weight that has been used anymore. Like, honestly, I don't even care. I don't even care. And when then someone is actually posting a huge lift and the technique was just like cringeworthy, and then it says like, yeah, just need to dial in the technique from now over the next couple of weeks. I'm just like, oh boy, come on. I mean, I'm not impressed by that. I'm actually kind of disgusted. Okay, disgusted is a very hard word, but more so, I don't find it cool. And I know that you could get so much more out of that if you just drop the load by a little bit. And then you would also have me as someone who's marring. I don't know if someone wants that or if that's kind of, what should be accomplished. Don't know. Don't care. But yeah, I'm just more, what I want to say is when I take a look at Instagram now and I go through my feed, what I'm more impressed with is just like good and solid execution. And I don't even look at the weight. The weight doesn't even matter to me, whether I'm impressed with that or not.
Yeah. I will say, though, if Pascal's miring, you're doing something right.
Exactly.
Whenever Pascal gives me any positive feedback, I'm like, that means I'm doing some good shit right here.
I'm just wearing the mustache now to just give the representation of how tough of a father I actually am. But deep down inside, I only have your best interest in mind.
It's funny, you and Katie would be like, if we were thinking good and bad cop, I think me and Charlotte would be the other way around. Like, I'd be the soft touch, whereas Charlotte would be like the hard down the line. She's like, nah, you're not getting away with that shit.
And she's also wearing a mustache then with her blonde hair.
Yeah, blonde hair, you don't even need to shave anything. It's just see-through, nothing there.
I had it just like yesterday. I saw Katie's legs and she's not listening to that one anyway, but she hasn't shaved her legs in a very long time. However, she's very blonde and you couldn't even see it. Yeah. So I actually, and she already has like very few hair on her legs. So I couldn't make it out whether they were shaved or not. Like, how good is that for women?
I think it's a common blonde girl solution to their need to shave their legs. I mean, we're done, aren't we? Questions.
Yeah.
Is that all of the questions we had as well?
Yeah, over on Facebook at least, but also just because I asked for questions like half an hour before we got onto the show. So sorry for that, guys.
Could we do one from Instagram just so I don't feel guilty?
Yeah.
I feel bad otherwise that I've asked for questions and we didn't answer any of them. There's a lot come through now.
Uh-oh.
How am I going to pick this? Oh dear, I have no idea how to even pick any of these.
Oh boy. Decision fatigue.
I'll just ask this one. So,
okay.
Because J.DASHPER
sounds like a rap song.
Dashper. He's asked two questions, so I'm going to ask this one. And he asked, do upright rows count as side delt or trap volume?
I count them as side delt volume. I know that they are, or that there is a huge part of trap activation in there as well. There's nothing bad with that. But I do personally count them as delt volume because I also want people to focus on the delts when they execute that and not just like shrug the weight. Also, when it comes to the biomechanics, the intention is there that the delts are doing the job and not just like the shrugging movement of you throwing the weight up and controlling or not controlling it at all and doing, letting all of the work come from the traps itself. Sorry for my English there.
Yeah, I'm the same. I program it with the intention to hit the delts, and the traps being hit is fine. It's not a problem. And I would say probably the correct answer for this individual is assuming your form and technique, and if you did want it to hit the delts, like you've tried, and if all you feel is all traps, then maybe count it towards your traps more than delts. This is what I do with dips. For my clients, I like it to be focused for the triceps. I count it towards triceps, but I have had people say, it feels great in my chest, I feel fuck all in my triceps. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we can use this as a chest movement then, and we won't count it towards triceps.
Yeah. Same goes for something like dumbbell lateral raise, right? I mean, yes, I would never actually prescribe them as trap work, but the traps will automatically be involved. That's also the whole discussion about active versus passive range of motion, that you don't want to let the traps take over. What's wrong with that? Right? there's nothing wrong with that, because the traps, same as the delts, they just recover fine in a very short period of time. So you're not just like fatiguing one muscle group over the one that you actually want to hit. The traps will probably not be the limiting factor when you're doing something like dumbbell side lateral raises, but probably still the delts. And the same goes for something like upright rows. It's like you said, when the traps become the limiting factor, hey, count them towards the trap volume, but they would still work the delts to a significant extent.
Awesome. Cool. I think that is everything.
Yeah.
Do we have anything to shout out? I think we should shout out some of the recent presentations that have been on the members site, just to give people a bit of a look in, because if you're not following me or Pascal on Instagram, you won't probably ever see what's going on behind the scenes particularly. We had a recent one actually talking about RER. We had Paul come on, who came on the podcast talking about RER, and I'm avoiding saying his last name on purpose.
That is Serafini.
There we go, Serafini. I think actually that's how I would have said it, so that's good. So Paul Serafini came on and discussed using RER throughout a mesocycle. So if you're into that sort of thing, I know I did one on sleep. We talked about sleep.
I don't know why, sorry to interrupt you there. I don't know why, but I always think that Paul is from Australia. Always.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And I'm always surprised when I then realize that he's from the US.
I think, he sounds quite American though. He doesn't sound like Australian, does he?
I don't know why. Maybe he's always walking around in like vests and flip-flops, and as if there's always somewhere at where he is living. Maybe there is, right? Maybe he's living in Texas or so. I don't know. But yeah, I'm always like surprised and like, shit, I thought that. Also from his mentality, I have the feeling that he would be more suited to be located in Australia than in the US. So I know that Paul is every once in a while listening and tuning in here. So Paul, maybe you want to consider moving down under. So
down under. I can't do an Australian accent.
Mate.
And then we have, I know we've recently received some new ones as well. We have one on biomechanics, Jason Miller. Miller, there we go. Jason Miller, been on the podcast as well.
What would you do without me?
I know. So we've had that one, and we had Dr. Joe all on peaking as well come across. So I'm very excited to have these guys involved and those presentations, which are nice and exclusive for us. That's always nice. So if you're interested, you know what to do.
Absolutely.
Sign up. That was an awkward wink.
Yeah. Cool. So guys, thank you very much as always for listening, for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, hit the like button, hit the whatever there is here on YouTube, what they've added and all that kind of stuff. And of course, comment in this comment section below. If you have watched the entire episode up until now, then that's very much appreciated. And of course, I would like to hear the reason as to why, whether you just done it to just give us shit, whether you've done it for support, whether you've done it because you love us or hate us. I don't know. I do care though. I want to say I don't care, but I do really care. And I'm just more curious. So yeah, leave a comment in the comment section below. And I guess I'll speak to you guys next week.
Auf Wiedersehen. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Flor. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.